karigu nguli ngurno ngalamanyang naya ngamringa darolanga ye.
Kids always ask for it too, and you know they're going to be scared.
What's about that, eh? Blackfellas love scary stories.
Scary, eh?
Yeah, they all. I don't know why. We all windy anyway.
Yeah. I've heard the stories of like where Pop and his uncle and his dad, and if they spoke language, they'd be told, "Oh, what are you speaking that rubbish for?"
Language, it brings up a lot of trauma for people, especially older people, and so I think that's something that you really need to take into account when you're teaching them older people that give them time, give them time to grieve, let people know, especially young people know that it's not their fault that they don't know their language.
And to see her face light up for our auntie when she'd hear the words. She said, I remember that from years ago.
I always remember something my grandfather always taught me. It's human to be different, but it's humane to accept the difference. Good year, welcome to Language Yarns Round the Table. I'm Andy Saunders. I'm a proud Biripi man, and I'm so happy to be sitting here and hosting this language yarn. I am really excited to be sitting here with our languages mob and our knowledge holders from across New South Wales, and I cannot wait to share stories about reclaiming language. Speaking of, I'd love to introduce you to them. Please welcome Kayleen Kerwin, a Barkindji knowledge holder from Far West New South Wales. Also welcome Rhonda Radley. She's a Biripi and Dunghutti woman and Gatang language elder. Please welcome Priscilla Strasek. She's a Gamilaroi and Yuwalarai woman who dedicates her life to strengthening language and culture. Also, Jayden Kitchener-Waters, a Gomeroi and Yampa man teaching Gomeroi language and culture in Tamworth. And last but not least, Isaiah Creighton, a proud Gomeroi language teacher and learner from northwest New South Wales. So that's it. That's our crew today. We're going to have a yarn about languages, about reclaiming language. I love the word reclaiming because it means that we're taking it back. It sort of suggests that we didn't really lose it because we always had it. It was kind of forced out of us, taken away, so we are reclaiming it. I love that word. I'd love to hear your stories, but first I'd love you all to just maybe introduce yourselves, tell us who your mob is, where you're from, and how you got involved in language. We might start with you.
Ngai ngapa. I'm Kayleen Kerwin. I'm a strong, proud Barkindji woman from Wilcannia, Far West New South Wales. My dad's a Yarrandutta Wanderer man from Inaminka, South Australia. And living in Wilcannia, we didn't have language in our schools back then. I worked at Menindee Central School for many years. I said to the principal, I said, I don't feel comfortable sitting in here with, our kids learning German and Japanese. Why don't, and he said, well, Kayleen, why don't we do language? And so I said, yeah, we'll do language here. And I said, but you must remember, we are on Barkindji country. We have other two language groups here, which is Wiradjuri and Yampa. I'm really proud and staunch about language. So that's how I become involved with language, and been working with them for years, and I'm sort of so passionate about it because my old auntie, that was one of her dreams for language to be taught up and down the Darling River, so our kids and future generations never loses that. So that's, my passion, and I'll keep going with that while ever I'm still here today. And that's really important.
It's very important. Thank you so much, Kayleen. And, this is all about bringing back what we've lost and creating a more immersive way of learning. So, our babies are growing up with what was supposed to be their first language, and you know, it's going to be just a natural way of speaking. And soon it'll be good, like in the future, it'd be good to say my second language is English. Wouldn't that be unreal? What about you, Jayden?
Yeah, proud Gomerang Yampa fella. I was lucky because I grew up around language, and like a lot of mob across New South Wales, just grew up with those basic words like guna, gil, calling people gammon, just a few words. But I was lucky that I was able to grow up around that and grew up around dance and song and grew up with stories and stuff. So I guess it's always been there, but I haven't been super involved in language until I moved back on country, back to Tamworth in 2021. I moved back from Sydney, and since then sort of just been trying to get more and more engagement in the community around language, and so yeah, that's sort of how I got to be in there.
You want to tell everyone what guna means? It's a good word, that.
It's a good word.
Guna means poo. It's poo. I've got deadpan down the barrel for you.
Deadpan, straight down the barrel, man. It's poo. It's poo. And you know, gammon. So that's a widely spread word by First Peoples nations all across this continent. Gammon, where it originated, was gaming. No, I'm just gaming. Just gaming with you. Playing a game.
True God.
Yeah, true God.
Oh, you're gammon.
No, I'm not gammon. No, I'm not gammon. I'm not gammon about gammon. That's exactly where it originated. And we could talk about other words that came from, when we were trying to blend English into our own language. Our own language was being forced out. Like gubba, as we know today, is a white person. But it's not actually a derogatory term. It's a shortened term of government man. But we couldn't say the B's. A lot of our elders, they say government man, gubba man, gubba, and then gub. We love shortening things.
Yeah, well, in my language, back into the old fellas, called white fellas, white fella.
White fella.
White fella. White fella in Barkindji language. White fella there, look.
And what about you, Aunt? You want to tell us about you?
Yeah, Baruba Yitira, Rhonda Radley, Ban Rhonda, Anjikuri, so also known as Sani Rhonda in the community, and Anjikuri, an Aboriginal name that was gifted to me. And the fellow had to come and see my grandfather for me to accept that name. It means gum tree blossom, but in our language it's Morupan, Gurumbak Morupan. Nata Birapai Dangari Golban Damban. I'm a strong Birapai and Dangari woman. But I grew up on my grandfather's country, Guruk, Port Macquarie, so sort of step into the language there, Gatang, and like Jayden there, we grew up with words, and after going to school, no one knew those words at school. So you go, people look at you like you've got two heads. So you learnt really young what to say and what not to say. And we grew up in the bush. It was a place, Blackman's Point, and we were pretty free range out and that. And some of the mob used to come and visit, sort of from Taree coming up or Kempsey coming down. And so I did grow up with language being spoken around me, but it wasn't actually to me. I ended up stepping into the language space in about 2011. A big shout out to Andy Saunders, because for me it's been really healing, and I believe that generational trauma, if we do the work, we heal past and forward. So once I started feeling comfortable with it, for me it's a life journey, and I just really love being in that space and supporting the young ones coming through, more of a mentor, and but part of my journey was to to know a little bit more about the content and about Aboriginal languages. So I did my Masters in Indigenous languages, and then just recently finished a PhD around using, because when I talk, and it's really hard for me because I'm usually all like this, and so when I teach, I'm out there, doing all this thing, and just recognise that, my students were getting so much out. We just laugh all the time, that Billa, when I was saying it. So, but what I recognised when we were all around campfire, when people were talking, they weren't just sitting there talking, they were happy right in there, around the fire and using your hands and body with the hand talk. I wanted to, with the study and that, prove that actually it is a good method to teach our language, because it goes with our dance and those cultural expressions, and we should be employing all that is when we're teaching language. I don't think it can be separated, so just encourage people to do that. But now I'm just more or less, maybe led the charge a little bit up home in language revitalisation, but now I want to, 10 years down the track, I want to step back. And I'm just so hopeful, and I love these young people stepping into that space. So I want to be there, to support that fire in their belly.
And they got that energy, the young folk.
Yeah, they big energy.
Yeah, big energy. I love it. Next on the round table, Priscilla, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so Yarmandai and Gayana Estilla, Uwalarai Gamilaroi Yanard, and Dunduila Lightning Ridge Gar. So my name's Priscilla, and Gamilaroi and Uwalarai, and also connection to Welwyn through my nan as well, and my pop as well. And I live in Lightning Ridge, and I grew up in Lightning Ridge. That's on Uwalarai country. Born in Walgett, and that's where all my family's from, all the Walfords and Lakes. My nan's from Galargambone. So I'm the same. Grew up hearing words, Pasadinga, Widja, and all the other words that we know, and little phrases too. Like my nan used to have a little phrase like you weren't allowed to touch a bag. So otherwise that would, I'll just say it anyway, but she used to have a little saying, and it would, don't touch my bag because you'll make my ngamus ache. Yeah, that was her little saying, so But she was a real card, my old man. It's just always stuck in me, and and then in the late 90s, I got involved in a language course, and we were allowed to take our kids as well. It was just, so we just used to rock up one night a week and do this course, and because our kids loved it, they wanted to keep doing it. So so then we managed to find a way to get it into our school. So that was in the late 90s, and we used to attend, and it was for everyone. We used to drive in, and there's, this was, you just did all this, there's no money or anything, it was just a passion and thing for your kids to make them proud, because at school, all we heard was, what would, our culture wasn't back then. It wasn't a priority. It wasn't even really talked at school in this. Well, when I was growing up in the 70s, I remember, going home crying because, learning about Captain Cook and kids saying things to you, and then so I was determined. I was determined that my kids weren't going to have that. So I was involved a lot with schools. We had Uncle Ted Fields and we had Auntie Rose. My auntie and my pop, they were always, pushing us to keep doing it as well.
With Aboriginal languages and them being silenced, how do you feel? What's your feeling about that? And the feeling in your country, how does that look?
I mean, I grew up hearing the words, and the phrases, but my pop, and with a lot of our families out there, to keep their families together, they did what they had to do. So I don't, you know, you can't judge anyone, and I respect all our old people, you know, and you know, we don't know, like, what I've lived through compared to what they lived through. That's a totally, you know, different time, and they did what they had to do. Yeah, yeah, but I've heard the stories of like where Pop and his, you know, his uncle and his dad, they worked out on the properties, you know, they did all that hard work, and you know, and they worked beside the white people and built the land, you know, like out that way, all their farms and everything worked on them, and you know, they kept those Aboriginal people on their properties because they knew where the water was, they knew where everything was, you know, they kept them on there, and they worked, you know, that hard. But then when it came to like eating, like they weren't allowed in the big house, like they sat around outside, and like this is the, you know, what Pop was saying, like with the dogs, you know, sit around outside, and if they spoke language, they'd be told, oh, what are you speaking that rubbish for? And they'd, you know, kick them or whatever, you know. So when you hear stories like that, you know, that makes you sick in the stomach. But, you know, and all you want to do is be able to speak your language. Why can't we speak our language, you know? But, you know, you take away people's language, you're taking away their stories, you know, you're stopping that from, yeah, that was a tactic, wasn't it, you know?
It was a tactic,
yeah.
And there's a lot in Australian politics about that, you know, for example, the assimilation policy and the Australian government trying to breed us out, and that's definitely a part of it and an aspect of it. I think when you lose your language, you lose your identity, and that is something that we definitely need to think about, and that's why this is really, really exciting, because we're bringing identity back, we're bringing an opportunity for young kids to find out really who they are, what they're connected to, and why it's so important to be connected to that. I mean, we all say it's the oldest living culture in the world, but it's the deadliest too. I love it. Isaiah, you want to introduce yourself, brother?
I'm Isaiah Creighton. It's a name I'm very grateful to bear. The strong family line, I'd like to say. I'm very proud of who I'm related to. I was born on a Wawakal country, so Newcastle. My father is Gomeroi and my mother is white, so I've always kind of just grown up in this weird state of living with like completely white siblings and a white mother, and then going on trips to a completely different family. And it was like I was living these two completely different lives, and I was only able to dip my fingers into my own life and who my family was for a very long time. And it was quite easy to become small within that because of the community I was living within, the family I was living within. But it wasn't until recently that I moved back to Gomeroi country to live with my family, and realized that it wasn't just two different lives and that it was just one. And I've really done a lot of growing up and a lot of learning, and had a lot of privilege to learn my family's language and be able to pass that on to people that I'm very lucky to be in the position that I'm in, and to hold the knowledge that I do. Because there's a lot of people who, as you know, there's a lot of people who haven't had that chance to speak their languages.
But how did, you're talking about an identity struggle there at some point in your life. How did learning language help you with that struggle?
Learning language has completely changed my life. Like, it's just flipped my entire life on its head. Just the way that I look at everything has changed. like social dynamics, like the education system, the workplace in general, and just, I guess, the history of the country. Like growing up, I always, like, we all just knew a couple words, but it was just a few like animal names, and it wasn't like, it was just like Chinese whispers, just like, the pronunciation wasn't what it would have been, but yeah, I don't know, it's completely changed my life. Yeah.
That's fantastic, Isaiah. I mean, and we talk about, you know, things that heal our community, and you're living, breathing proof that language definitely does that, and learning.
Come a long way, eh? Like,
It has.
Jayden,
Like
Gomeroi,
Yeah.
Nyampa, man,
yeah.
right? You're in a big area. It's huge. Gomeroi language, you know, you're teaching it out there at Tamworth. What's the most important thing to think about when you're teaching people language, do you think?
I think going back to what you were saying before, like, you know, language, it brings up a lot of trauma for people, especially, you know, older people, and so I think that's something that you really need to take into account when you're teaching them older people, that learning our language again is going to bring up so many emotions, and even just having these sort of conversations, because when we have these conversations, we think really deeply about it, and we're like, gee, this is momentous. But yeah, I think in teaching someone a new language, you know, their language for the first time, I think just give them time, you know, give them time to grieve, you know, let people know, especially young people know that it's not their fault that they don't know their language. I'm sure you agree with that, eh?
Do you see, when you're teaching people language, do you see their demeanour change? Do you see, I think, from my perspective, I think you would probably see a healing happen over time.
For sure, they go from, you know, probably the same in all the lessons, eh? They rock up real shame for their first one, and you know, real quiet, and then a few lessons in, they're more confident, and then by the end of it, you know, they're heaps confident, and they're happy, and they're proud, and that's purely because they've got their identity, and they've got their language back, and they're feeling strong again, you know, feeling strong in who they are.
Well, I could relate to that, because one of the old girls from Menindee, she was on the Menindee mission, and you know, those mission days, and she was taken from Barkindji country. Like, her husband never got to meet her mum, her children never got to meet their grandmother. She came home, and then she requested, like us been working at Menindee Central School, she requested that we go to her home and sit in the backyard and teach her language. So we did that, and you know, when we were saying the word, she said, I remember that word, I remember all that, you know. But it was so thing to get her hear the language again, and requested for us, and the principal said, look, just go around there, sit with her, me and a few of the others from that community, sitting with her in her yard, and I took bickies and cups of tea, and she was so happy to listen to language again. And she
How old was she?
She was, oh God, she was 70-something, 80.
Yeah, mad.
And to see her face light up for our auntie when she'd hear the words, she said, I remember that from years ago.
Mad.
Yeah, and it was good.
You write 1 million blockbuster movies on this island, out of over 400 different countries on this continent. There's millions of different blockbusters, and lead actors and actresses in them. I think we're all worthy of it. So, you all teach, all right? You teach language. I'm interested, like even a small room full of mob, they can be funny, having fun, you're laughing, you're sort of getting down to ground roots, you know, everyone's learning something that they really want to be there to learn. You know, I've been in a class full of mob, and it's always fun, and it's easier to learn. You see that? Do you see that in your classes? Yeah. What's the most enjoyable thing to see when you're teaching like that?
I think for the students to become teachers,
Yeah.
you know, and that's, you know, like what I love, you know, like, oh, what's that? And then they go, it's this, and then they start teaching all the other mob, and you just sit down as a teacher and let it go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really special. But what I love within some of the groups that I've taught is the generational thing. You know, have your grandmother, you have daughter, and you have granddaughter. And that's really special to see those different generations that come in, or sisters, or, you know, cousins and stuff. They all do it as a family, and then watch their interaction, you know, and their commitment to each other, to support each other in language. And that's pretty special. But blackfellow humour, you know, something you could trip over something, you know, and you think, oh, and next minute we're all laughing about something silly.
Yeah.
But we did charades, and I was talking about hand talk, and we started doing charades, and I think that was probably the funniest thing, because you do something and you wouldn't believe that people could read it a different way, and the things that they'd come in and say.
So charades in gut tongue.
Yeah, well, you know, you do charades and then they've got to translate into language.
With
do that.
meeting up
What
with
does it
different
mean?
language groups at all these different conferences that I've attended over the years.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there with, you know, comparing words and, you know, for body parts and whatever, and it totally, and we just have the best laugh. It's, you know, something totally different in, we say what we know it is, and then they'll say it what it is, and it's totally different, and we just burst out laughing. You know, those sort of things with so it's fun like that in these conferences, and
There could be a market in that. We could Aboriginalise all of these board games.
Yes.
Just make them into different Aboriginal languages.
Yeah.
Like Monopoly.
We do that. Hey, with the games that
we play Barkindji Bingo.
Barkindji Bingo?
Yes, and you know, the kids, I tell them when I used to work up in Indy, you know, pull the little things out, animals, and tell them, and the other kids, they'd tag them, and so Barkindji Bingo. So
I reckon
we used
I'd
to play
come to that.
You
I'd
would?
definitely be at that.
Yeah,
I love bingo in general.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
yeah, so that's the sort of things we used to do, and I think with the songs too, with the kids, you know, they learn quicker with language with songs.
Yeah.
Because Menindy's done a lot, like singing in language, and they just recently had the Monday Bash out near Silverton, with all the bands like Shane Howard and all these different Aussie bands was out then. We had the kids from Wilcannia Central School. They performed on stage in front of, I don't know, over 6,000-7,000 people.
Wow.
Singing in language.
Wow.
So that's every year out there.
That's a Monday
Monday
pushback.
Bash,
Yeah.
yes.
Why wouldn't they put it on Tuesday or Wednesday?
I don't know, no. It's the Monday, well, it's the Monday Plains. It's the Monday Plains, and it's near Silverton. Yes, so it's a tradition, must be a
Gets
traditional.
me every time.
Yes.
What do you see the future of Aboriginal languages in this country? What do you reckon, Isaiah?
Tricky. There is just a lot of bouncing off one another that you see in the community. And it's really good to see a lot of people getting to that point where the student does become the teacher, where people just become self-sustaining machines. Just like I've had that experience, and I think I've passed on that to other people as well, and it just keeps going. So I'm not sure. You can just only imagine that that's just going to keep building and building, and people are just going to keep bouncing off one another.
I think it's really great that you're here, Isaiah and Jayden, you know, to see all these young people, and that's like with a lot of like shame and things like that, or for whatever reason people might not want to learn their language or whatever, but when they see like their kids or their grandkids like singing and performing and that in language, then they change. Like then they, you know, and they want to know more and they want to learn too.
Embrace it
Like
more.
it breaks through, and
It does break through.
and like Kayleen, like you were asking, well, like my mum's the Aboriginal. My dad, he's Slovenian, so my dad, when my daughter used to perform in language, like, he was always like the first one there, and he was always so proud that she was like singing in language too, you know, and it's about bringing other people along too, you know, that's another thing, like, yeah.
She's incredible at
yeah.
singing. You heard her daughter sing, Kelsey?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
yeah.
how good. You know, our people are just such staunch and resilient people, and I think that comes a lot from them elders, especially, you know, them language elders that kept our languages strong. And I'm going to turn it into a little bit of a question. You know, like, what was it? You mentioned Uncle Ted Fields before, and Auntie Rose, and all them older people. And I guess the question for you fellas, what was it like? Sort of, because us young people, you know, we didn't get the chance to meet them old fellas, them staunch old warriors, you know. We've got our language elders now, but talking about the mob before that, what was it like sitting with them, learning from them?
Well, that's what I know for me, because I feel like I've got them all the time, because they were the ones, you know, Auntie Rose, I remember coming back, and it was actually for my pop's funeral, and Auntie Rose, she called me over and she said, "Oh girl, you got to come home and teach language." And I said, "Yeah, Aunt, I will, you know, I'll be coming back home." Yeah, but they were the ones, like yeah, so that's really my strength, because I don't really care what anyone said. I was, you know, I've always got them with me, so and they encouraged me back then, and that's kept me going. So
yeah, I think kept me going to the same.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, like for me, we've had those, you know, struggles within our communities and that, but over, you know, like I'll just reflect on the last 10 years. Like, we've got signage in language. We've got, you know, so many non-Aboriginal people as allies that really want to support the language coming back and being spoken and part of, you know, everyday speak. But I just want to do a bit of reflection and share this with you, because I've been in caring for country space for many years, and once I started sort of talking language and, you know, really conversing with country, and that, it was how the country lit up, and it was like, it's just so many amazing experiences and that. And we talk about we sleeping, like, you know, language went sleeping, and so I'm a listener, and I listen to country and that, and I've framed it that way, but, you know, I've come to think a different way, that we actually went sleeping because the language is in country. It's all around us. It's that vibration of country. And if you're still, and we have this beautiful word, naranga, and it's this same word in Gadang, Dangari and Gumbangira, that means listen, think, learn, know and remember. So it's in this space of naranga, which is must listen, deep listening, that you hear all those sounds of your language around you. So I've come to think that we weren't sleeping, we was like a forced sleeping in a way. And yeah, so I just want to share that with you, because more and more when I'm in the bush and stuff, like, I do this deep listening, and when you talk to country, it will shine. It will have a shine.
You feel so happy when you're talking to country, eh?
And the birds and the, you know, all the creatures and stuff like that. It's quite beautiful. But I've seen massive changes over the last decade, and I'm so hopeful, especially with you, Mob, a young mob, and all the little ones, little preschoolers that I teach, and they just want it. They're just thirsty for it. They're hungry for it. Yeah.
And that's beautiful, Naranga. And, you know, I get there are a lot of battles out there in relation to, you know, different language groups and countries, and saying that you can't do this here and that there. But we have to also understand that not every ground is a battleground, and we don't really have to fight. We mainly have to fight for our people's own right to have the opportunity to learn language and help support that. I always remember something my grandfather always taught me. And it goes, it's human to be different, but it's humane to accept the difference. So he always said, you know, you need to test yourself as a human being. You can't always be comfortable. And see the difference in people, but also see the similarities. If you need to have the hard conversations, then enter it like a warrior, because that's what we need to do to move forward. He was a great man, and you know, I always heard him say a lot of words. You know, pass me the birin, and there's wipe your face. You got ninung on your face, or all of these little words. You know, and it always triggered me, and I was always
It's funny
like,
too, because when you're growing up with them, I have this yarn a fair bit. When you're growing up with them kind of words, even like muni's is a Gomeroi word. I know one of the brothers about it. Like when you grow up with language as a normality, you kind of find it a bit strange later on in life when you actually find out, oh, that's a word in language. That's actually a Gomeroi word, but you've just grown up with it and it's just been part of your vocabulary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, Jayden, because even when we did that, when we first, they first did a course, and you're just like thinking, oh, you know, that's words like we know all those, you know, and even, when my eldest daughter, she used to, like, when she used to fall over, and I say, oh, bundani, like, you know, and then they're saying, oh, yeah, that's the word, that means you fell over, you know, so, and, it's just, but it's,
Well, old Aunt Viv would say, oh, yakoi, when someone fall over, yakoi bundagi. And then it turns out that's a Gomeroi word. Thought it was just something that people say. I thought everyone said that. Looking at my white friends, you don't say that?
And would that word, two words, waki and gunj?
yeah, waki and gunj.
You know that word?
Yeah.
Either one of those words? Yeah, that seemed to be sort of like, you know, when we'll say that, sitting down at conferences and yarning up about some certain words. Do you know those spirits? You know, saying you can't go, get home before dark, the gunj will get you. Yeah. Waki.
You can't mistake gunj. Can't mistake gunj for gunji though.
No, we don't believe that.
They can both be as scary though, but
even just like mannerisms within my family and stuff, and like grammatical patterns that they've like taken from language without even realizing, and just because they grew up with it, and I've like told them that it actually comes from like language, and they just didn't know because it's just what they grew up with, and it was just ingrained. It's how they lived.
Yeah. You're told, oh no, you're talking back to front. And made fun of because but that's the way our language is.
I just love the diversity, like when you're teaching in that's in the room, when how people say things, and you know, encourage people to use their own voice. But sometimes I'll hear language and they want to be like them, and I'll say, no, you just use your own voice. You know, when we are where we are at this point in time, we're not, you know, traditional mob. Let's just be authentic and be ourselves. And then it takes the judgment away, because some people feel, you know, when they start learning language, there's a bit of judgment there. And I just say, no, just be with you. We have man voice, we have woman voice, and we're all good, you know.
Just like English, I speak English different to all of you, so like what's the difference?
And speak English a lot different to what English was spoken 100 years ago as well.
Exactly.
You know, people get real caught up on language needs to be super authentic and it needs to follow this structure, and I agree, like we need to be talking like the old people as much as possible, but you know, just as English has evolved, so does language, and I guess that's where that conversation with new word creation comes around. You know, our languages have always evolved, and you know, as long as we're always paying homage to our old people and respecting the way they spoke, going forward, you know, it's all good. You know,
inevitable.
With learning language and having it, you know, sort of in here now and in here, do you feel like you can open your mind to learning more? Do you feel like that is like the basis of learning for our kids? Like, what I'm trying to get at is our kids, a lot of our kids, especially in my area, they look at disengaging from your archaic way of learning, like your mainstream school, very early, around about 5th class, 6th class. They get to high school and they're like, no, this isn't for me. But if they had language and that core cultural aspect of language to help them with identity and strength in culture, I think we'd see a change. I really do.
Well, our language, you know, because it's our country speaking to us, and like, you know, there's one word for tree, but that tree, like people just say, oh, that's just a tree, but that tree has so many stories. Yeah, and when you're out on country and you start learning those stories, but that's something you learn through time as well, because there's so many layers and stories to that tree, you know, and to all our places on country, because that's like a big thing too with like learning language, is like when you're at home and when you go to those places, you know the proper names of those places, you know, like, and that's so important too, and the story that goes with that place, like, and yeah, and that's and when you're out on country and you're learning about that place and the words and the language from that place, or that place is giving you, you know, and I've said it before, it's like having glasses on and they're all fogged, and then the next minute they're clear, and you can see so many other things. Hey, it's unreal. Yeah.
And I suppose it's important for our kids to know the stories about certain spots around, you know, your community, and even if there is a language word, know what the old people would have used back then. Yeah, because there is a lot of places around.
Where not to go and where to
go and where not to go.
Don't go there.
Yeah.
Well, you know straight away, eh? When you're somewhere you shouldn't be. You just,
and
you know,
yeah, sort of stuff like that. Yeah.
Spirits down there, don't go
down
there.
down the river. Or, you know, in our language we got, you know, we was all told not to go swimming. Yeah. Because the ngachi in our language is like the serpent, rainbow serpent, who created the rivers and creeks. So, you know, that story gets told, like even I was told that when I was a little girl. Don't you go down the river, ngachi there, and we knew straight away, you know, the ngachi.
Is that NG?
NG, ngachi. NG. APYI.
Yes, we got that too, Kayleen. Yeah, that's the one story that. If we stayed down at Nan and Pop's, my cousin, that's the one story when we were little. Yeah. We used to get told all the time, and we just want to hear it over and over. But it was about the water dog.
Yeah, the water dog. I heard that from Pop Dixon, from Walgett. You know, he lived. You know, my kids, great grandfather, water dog. But and I think in those messages too, it's probably telling kids right from wrong, but they don't realise. Yeah. You know, so those, you know, when the old people just say don't go down there and things, so it was sort of safety thing. But you didn't realise that until now, when you grow. You know, like my age now, you didn't think of it. We thought it was just a scary story. Yeah. But then now you think of it, it was more about your safety. Yeah.
Safety, culture, respect for elders.
Yes, all that. When you think of it now.
They were smart like that, eh?
Yes.
They'd be telling you, tell all these stories to, you know, stories that had layers, but, you know, the first layer is for these young people, you know, to know where to go and to keep safe. And then, like you said, as you get older and you reflect on these stories or learn a bit more about the story, so you go, oh, yeah.
Is that what they meant?
I know what you meant.
See, when but back then, a lot of those stories made me sleep like this.
Yes, yeah.
It wasn't a campfire without a story.
Yes,
you know,
oh,
a
yes.
ghost story. Or
Oh, I have to be a
You're going to
ghost
be
story.
scared all
Yeah.
the time, eh?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
kids always ask for it too, and you know they're
Yeah.
going to be scared.
What's about that, eh? Blackfellas love scary
Love
stories.
scary,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah. Yeah, they all
I
love.
don't know why. We are windy anyway.
Yeah. But we like to be like that.
Yeah.
This has been an unbelievable conversation. You guys have got so many stories about language, and it gives me hope for the future because you guys, you're knowledge holders, but you're not scared to be knowledge sharers. And that is the difference between, you know, someone who knows a lot but also teaches a lot, and you're both, which is really, really hopeful for the future. How much, can we go around the table and give me how long you've been a knowledge and language holder? How long?
Well, I suppose since I was a kid, like that's how far I can go back from the old people. So I
25
wished. Yeah, but since I was a kid, like, and I'm 60 next year, so I think, you know, because I was hearing it and I never had a chance to teach it until, you know, 2008.
And
So-
you'll teach it till
Yeah.
the end, won't you?
Hell, I'll teach it till the day I drop. Yeah, so that's how I'm, you know, that passion for it, and to keep it going,
I want
so that we never lose our language.
on
Never
that
ever.
last day though, I want to give you a day.
Yes.
One day off for a cup of tea, eh?
One day.
One day covered
So
it.
cup of tea.
And yes, yes,
Hey?
yes.
What about you, brother?
I wouldn't consider myself knowledge holder. I know a little bit of language, but you know, I'm sort of at the stage where I'm like now sitting at tables with knowledge holders. So might be one day.
But you do dance, sing, teach kids at Kenworth Brothers.
Yeah, it's pretty mad.
That is handing from one generation to the next, and that is what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
So how long you been doing that for?
I've been dancing since I was a young fella with the dance company, but you know, like I was saying, like I would only sort of have those dances and the songs and the knowledge around those by sitting with knowledge holders. So yeah, I'm super grateful to have sat around some really strong fires, I guess you'd call them. Yeah.
You mad dancer to this fella.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be good to hear like that noise in like mainstream music,
Yes,
like
yes.
Beyonce, all the single ladies.
Well, Barker sang up in Vulcania there, and she sang her songs, what, you know, her and one of the other fellows have written, and she put all that in. Yeah, and it's deadly mad. Yeah.
That's
Sylvia, you are?
Well, I think, you know, just going back to what I was saying before, you know, country holds language. I've had that relationship with language since I was born, but on, you know, just sort of teaching and knowing more about language and other people's languages, the more I know, I learn, the more I realise I don't know. There's just so much to learn, and there's layers, you know, with it.
Yep.
Baby talk and men talk, women talk, country talk, and, you know, cultural talk and in our relationships. So in some ways I'm still a baby.
Yeah, like we've never stopped learning, have we?
Yeah, and
No matter how old we are.
and I
Little
think when you get older, like I'm over my 60s now, you know,
Yeah.
I mean 60s, I just yeah, as I say, you know, I feel just a learner. I know a little bit, but a bit of a jack of all trades. As you get older, you know a little bit about this, that.
And what about you, Scylla? How long you been
Well,
learning and teaching?
learning's a lifetime, but teaching like was in the late 90s. Yeah, but I'm not a knowledge holder. I'm just a sharer. So, and I just want to
Very humble.
support. Yeah, well, I just want to support the young people now because I've had that support, and I know how hard it is too. So, Yeah.
Isaiah.
Um,
Since you were a kid?
well, I guess like when I was super little, there were some words that I didn't know the difference. Like I didn't know that it was where those words came from. I just thought those were the words. But then when I realized, I guess, on the playground, I tried to share a few words to some of the other kids to try to get some cool points. But I had to pick and choose, I think. But always learning. I think, well, I didn't really start teaching until, when would you say? Because Jayden taught me pretty much, like he's been there since.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And Reuben, shout out to Reuben. Look him as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Reuben.
Before I started hanging out with these boys, yeah, my language was like max of like 10 words maybe. So I guess it wasn't until last year maybe that I started teaching.
Well, I am so glad all of you got to share today, and I'm absolutely excited that you are going to continue to share into the future languages and create more dialogue about languages, provoke thought about languages, Aboriginal languages. It's just been an amazing session here today, and I'm so glad that I got to meet each and every one. Thank you very
Right.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you. I really
everybody.
enjoyed the round table. Would have been better sitting up with around the fire with a couple of big bottles.
Well, thank you so much for watching Language Yarns Round the Table. We hope you got some insight into what communities are doing, all the work they're doing across New South Wales to keep languages alive. I do want to thank this incredible crew today for sharing your stories. It's been amazing. And thank you very much for joining us and watching today.